This is Show versus Business, your weekly take on pop culture from two very different perspectives. Your hosts, the real Theo Harvey and Mr. Benja, coming with all the relevant info about the week in pop culture. So, Mr. Benja, what are we covering today?
Today we got five hot ones as usual. We got the One Piece live action. This might actually be the turnaround that they need for all anime live action. It could be the Iron Man of live action anime. This might be a big thing or not. It could just feature crap. I don't know. We'll talk about it. Also, we got the writers and actors strike continuing, but this time they're talking about striking against video game companies. That's in the talks. I'm not sure it's going to play out the way you guys think, but we'll talk about that a little later too. Also, I heard that influencers need a little coaching, need a little learning, need a little understanding, some mentorship. Well, maybe they need to remember that sports influencer is your daddy. Just remember that. Sports guys have been here first. Gonna teach y'all a little lesson about sports influencers. Also, we got a story about the Marvel shows getting delayed. Marvel's been screwing around, playing around, effing around, D'ing around. Um, and they got some delays. And it's not a good time for them to be having delays. Nobody wants this. Also, we're gonna have an actual discussion. Theo and I have discussions all the time, but we're gonna have one here, and it's gonna be our fifth story. We're gonna ask the question: so, is AI gonna take your job or nah? People have been talking about this. We've spoken a little bit about AI a lot here and there, but we're actually gonna stop and say, you know what? Are they gonna take your job? Are they? I said they like AI is a. Actually, I don't know. What are AI's pronouns? Maybe that's a bad question to ask. Anyway, let's carry on and go. How does that sound for you, Theo?
I love it, man. I love it. So, look, I like to begin these, a little story about my week in the past. So, Mr. Benja, Labor Day is a funny holiday, and we're recording this on Labor Day. So, for if you listen to this, we're going to be a little delayed on the podcast this week, but it's just a weird holiday, man. It's like that last big holiday before, I guess, fully immersed into the fall season. But, technically, we all typically go back to school in August anyway. So it's kind of weird holiday right now. So, I was trying to think of, did I have any fun Labor Day thoughts? And you know what? I really don't. I was that's the thing I wanted to bring up to the point. I wanted to see if you had any interesting Labor Day memories. I mean, I typically don't really travel too much. Just, if I do, it's just more like something local or something with the family, but I don't plan a big cookout. I just kind of rest because I know this is the last 3-day holiday we get until probably October, maybe November. Yeah, I think it's November. So, Mr. Benja, did you have any Labor Day memories at all?
So I kind of have two. I'll start with the the bad one and then the good one.
Okay.
The bad one is every time I'm driving around on Labor Day, I always forget that it's Labor Day and I run into a parade. I run into there was a marathon going on in my neighborhood or around my neighborhood. And I drove up and they said, they had the little signs up, merge into the left lane. I'm like, "Oh, why am I merging to the left lane?" And then there's the guy with the cones, and he's like, doing the hand cone motion, and I'm like, "Oh lord, what's going on?" So I had to go some crazy roundabout way, and there's just a marathon for Labor Day, a Labor Day marathon, people running all over the place. I mean, I putting in that work. That's what Labor Day's for. So,
Is it? Is it though? It's really celebrating not to labor, not putting that work in, but
oh yeah, I mean,
it's
exactly.
about workers. That's correct. Yeah.
But yeah, my the good part that happened, I mean, that's not a bad part. I mean, do your running. I'm just joking there. But the good part is what my dad always used to tell me. He's like, Labor Day, Labor Day, son, it's about not laboring. Go to your room, play some video games, just relax. And I was like, cool. And yeah, but it's a public holiday in honor of working people in the US and Canada. So, you know, we always took it as a kick your shoes off and lay back kind of day and reflect on what you've accomplished, but we never really did that. We just kind of stopped working and played video games or watched TV or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, again, I think Labor Day, it does seem of the old world, right? Coming from Europe. I mean, that's a term. They have a labor party, you think about the industrial revolution where, people became workers and they worked in the factory and there's this whole kind of assembly line. Then you see, the socialist movement that kind of and communism kind of grew out of that. The workers unite, we're going to win. And then you have labor strikes we talk about with the Actors Guild. So this term of a laborer, is kind of foreign almost to Americans in a little bit, but we will celebrate Labor Day as a time to relax and enjoy time off. But I think it's just such a weird holiday here in America for us, because of the whole connotations that go with labor. What
Yeah.
does that mean exactly?
Well, yeah, it's kind of what got us here. So, there is that. And then, you start talking about the 5-day work week that was implemented because too much labor. It's like, oh my gosh, there's a tipping point. If we just do too much of this labor thing, everybody starts dying off and stuff. What are we gonna do? Pull back, pull back. So,
Mhm, mhm. Well, I heard the opposite argument. It was more like, "Hey, we need more laborers, so we need to put into some kind of school-based system to learn the basics so they can get into the factory a little bit younger and faster." So, like I said, that's some of the things I've read as well about
oh no, I mean
the purpose.
that's valid too. Yeah, it's not like one reason, I suppose, but yeah,
So, yeah, so this is a weird holiday, but other than that, I mean, I had my time. Went to go see the latest Denzel movie, Equalizer, with my pops. So, we're just Denzel fans. If you don't know what the Equalizer is, just think all it's of a piece of Liam Neeson Taken or Jennifer Lopez and Mother or any type of older actor basically beating up everybody else. Gotta love it. So me and my dad went to go see that, so he got to relive his youth, so that was good. And and spent time with family, which is always good, just checking out movies and some TV shows we'll talk about later with the kids as we, gear up for the fall and just resting, man, getting ready for, I think we both talk about both our businesses on here. So, I have roughly what, 8 weeks, right, to November. So I got put overdrive, brother. So really putting the foot to the pedal. Already prepared some things, got my school program. I got my 61 page book ready to go. So I'm just like hyped up, mainlining Alex Hormozy right now. Just trying to get some more ideas. So yeah, man, this is the time where I'm like, okay, it's time to put that game time, sports
yeah,
face on.
yeah.
So yeah, this is my time of rest.
Awesome, man, awesome. Well, I definitely got. I know what you're talking about. I made a post. I was like, man, we have 19 weeks left in. A couple weeks ago, I said we have 19 weeks left in 2023, and that just kind of hit me. I was like, man, less than 20. That's like when the official countdown starts. So now we're down to 16 weeks left, and that's not a lot. So fourth quarter, it's time. And you know what? I was moving on to the next phase of my podcast. I'm going to call this phase 4 of my podcast. I started taking the video thing more seriously, maybe in part to what we're doing here. But I was like, let me do this all vlog style. Let me just get in front of the camera and talk. And I started doing that, and I was like, man, this whole format needs to change up. And just, the vibe is wrong. The style, it's not. Radio has a certain intimacy. Like while you're driving, you can pause and ask questions a certain way. And it really started getting to me. I was like, okay, I need to change the format. Let me talk this way. Let me get to this part faster. Let me do more hand motions. It just became a thing, right? So, you like the hand motions? Yeah, I mean, it was a big difference in just how I presented myself, to a little circular camera as opposed to, what I'm usually doing when I do an audio podcast, which is, sitting around just kind of looking at my notes, thinking to the sky. And it was terrible for YouTube, but which is why I didn't show my face during the that podcast. But in this phase, I'm like, okay, I have a new presentation I need. So anyway, I got it all together and I was like, cool. That took a little while to work out. But then when I actually recorded, I went back to my recordings after I did 2 tests and I botched the
No.
recordings. And I was like, how did I do this? How did I do this? Yeah, it's weird. So apparently I had slow motion mode selected somehow. And when you're recording, can't really tell because you're recording at normal speed. but when you play it back, it's like, I'm like, "Oh my god." I tried speeding it up, but it was a 10 gigabyte file, and I'm like, "Done.
Oh,
I'll
no.
just record this again." So, yeah, this is the creative process. You try some stuff, you mess it up, you keep going, whatever. I'm all good with it, though.
Love it, man. Well, keep pushing, brother. Keep pushing. That's what we do. Iron sharpens iron, man. Let's get it.
That's right, that's right. Vlogging, son. I'm vlogging.
So,
Uh,
what you got, man? What we got for today? I'm ready.
are you ready for this?
Yeah.
Alright, story number 1. The One Piece live action might be the turnaround king for oh my god, for Netflix. See, I said Marvel because I was thinking about the hero movies and the live action. It might be the turnaround for the live action on Netflix. Anime in this case. They already I won't say they pioneered it, but they were definitely a big hand in really making live action exciting and happening for Marvel characters. Marvel also did Iron Man, and once that key got turned and people figured it out, it was just a big explosion, and we saw everybody really start to take notice of live action comics. Now with anime, we have One Piece, and it's actually getting a lot of play. In fact, if you look at the tomato meter from Rotten Tomatoes, I don't even know why I'm still reading from Rotten Tomatoes, but whatever, it's here. 83% average tomato meter and the 96% audience score. That's important because they are hard on these anime shows with just reason. But they give it a 96%. Now, Theo, you haven't been in the anime scene as much as I have, and you especially haven't watched 600 episodes of One Piece like I unfortunately
Sorry.
have, like a dumbass. But you started checking this out. So let me know. Maybe we should give a little history on One Piece really quick, super quickly.
Yeah,
Long
yeah.
ass and
Well,
okay,
before we do that, let's just talk a little bit about Netflix's history with anime, right? So I've seen some of their live action ones before, like Death Note. I didn't watch any of the animes of these, right?
okay,
So I'm just going in live action. Death Note, it's like a movie. I heard that got kind of panned a little bit. And then I think they did a Full Metal Alchemist. They did some live action on that a little bit. And then that was okay, I guess. But the one that got panned the most, I think, was Cowboy Bebop, right? Where great trailer. Everybody was hyped. But man, that thing felt like a turd, boy. And so I think Netflix is trying, man. They're known for trying everything. And it does seem like a good strategy for them since they are so global in nature, right? To why not take these properties and to make them to live action type, movies. So I do, commend them for trying. I mean, they got the money to do it, so why not? But they keep trying and trying and trying again. But I don't know. So that's kind of my takeaway from it. Like I said, I'm old school anime. I just remember Akira,
yeah,
Fist of the North Star. I'm old school. So you're probably a little bit more, into the mode than I am. So if I'm going in raw for all these shows and not impressed with the live action anime. So yeah, so I'm good to judge that. So thank you. So Mr. Benja, now we're trying to get into this One Piece story. So tell everybody what's the hypeness about One Piece, that I should give it a shot. And I can tell you my first reaction with a little bit of what I've seen so far.
well, when people talk about anime, they're going to talk about certain classic ones, right? It's like some of these properties are so beloved they don't want to touch them because you just know it's going to go wrong. Like Full Metal Alchemist was one of those, and Death Note was one of those. And they took Death Note, which was like I want to say it was 20 something episodes, and pushed crunched it down into a movie. It wasn't terrible, but it was extremely condensed, and you know, and of course some of the effects and everything looked a little weird and wonky, and it didn't come across necessarily right. So there's that. But with something like One Piece, it's like, okay, if we do One Piece and we do it right, then we've pretty much proven that we could do anything
Mhm.
because One Piece is just bizarre. Basically, it's about the story of Monkey D. Luffy, a pirate who gets the powers of the gum gum fruit, which allows him to stretch like Mr. Fantastic from the Fantastic Four, Reed Richards allows him to stretch like that. But he's a different type of character, so don't even try to relate them. They just both can stretch. Anyway, there's this crazy world with zany characters. I mean, when I say zany characters, we're talking about all types of wild powers that you're going to need a lot of money to make look right. And that's one thing that live action anime hasn't done, made all these crazy powers look right. So, Death Note was pretty tame in terms of special effects needs. Well, One Piece live action is, I mean, they're spending more on this thing than they did on The Last of Us. But we'll get to that in a minute. But basically, yeah, it's one of these animes that they really want to do right, and it seems like they put in the work and tried it. I haven't actually watched it yet, but as I said, I watched 600 episodes of the cartoon.
Well, let's get into this. Let's get into
Yeah.
this. So that does seem daunting, and that's not even that's almost even a little over half of how many anime episodes they have out there, right? Isn't it up to 1,000
Yeah,
episodes
they
now?
they crossed the 1,000 mark a little while ago.
So you can see, and this has been the who's the creator of this? I can't remember his name right now, but he's been doing this since 1996, over what 22 years. I mean, Mr. Benja. I mean, this is before you and I met.
Oh, yeah, it is.
This
Yeah,
guy's been doing this series longer than you and I have been friends. And we've been friends a long time. So
yeah,
that's amazing to me. Just the dedication. There's something to be said from business strategy, man. You just do something long enough, it will become beloved. It doesn't matter how crazy it is, just be consistent.
yeah.
You'll be overnight success in 20 years. But anyway, yeah. So, the depths of this thing was overwhelming because I think we talked about it on one of our podcasts early on. You mentioned that to me. I was like, what? 1,000 episodes. And then the actual, what's it called? The book, the manga? Is that what it's called? The book,
Manga, yeah.
manga. It's, how many volumes, right? And so, yeah, Mr. Benja, it does seem daunting for a new person to get into it. So I was kind of intimidated at first to even want to watch the live action, to be honest with you. But I bit I went ahead and, I said, okay, come on, son, let's just go watch this together. I mean, he knows a little bit about because, this is his generation, this Gen, I get they're called Gen Y. He's in this, he's 7, 8 years old. He's right after the Gen Z, right? So this Gen Y, Gen Z folks, they're all into anime, right? My
Yeah.
Hero Academia and Naruto, they know all that. It's almost like, I mean, be the cool kid and it don't matter. Everybody knows anime now. So he was aware of it. He just didn't know the story, right? So that's when we kind of sat down and watched it together. So, Mr. Benja, so what's your take on it as a longtime watcher? Did you read the manga at all, or you just kind of just watched the?
Usually in Japanese, manga to anime translations, you get something that is relatively faithful, but toned down for the TV audience,
Oh
where
wow,
it's a
toned
little
down. It's
yeah,
already out there. Okay.
it's a little softer, it's a little more PG. When you get to anime, it's not so intense. The books can get quite intense with how they rock with things. So, when you see it in the anime, it's a little toned down from that, and I'm guessing the live action is even a little toned down from the anime, which is weird because you have 2 levels of toned down now, which is kinda funny.
That's all
I
water. It's like a copy of a copy. Ugh, what is this?
Yeah, exactly. But this is the current pipeline, and it's so funny because it's it's good, but it's goofy as hell. And the source material to me is good, where you just have this basic hero story of, "Hey, I'm this kid, I'm a hero, I'm gonna go kick this ass, I'm gonna do this thing." And it's like, "Okay, well, who's in your way? Okay, that's your bad guy, go." But it circumvents, I think, a lot of problems because the bad guys really aren't the focus. They're they're an easy reflection on all the heroes and the things they have to go through. So you don't get into this bad guy problem of, oh, well, that was a cool bad guy and or the bad guy was cooler than the hero. It's clearly about the hero and his journey. So
the
So
shading on the villains, which I think is very key, man. I mean, that's we talked about Shoka last week, right? I mean, they're trying to do that to Force, right? Can't just be about the Sith and the Jedi all the time. Let's broaden this out. So there is no, black and white, but there's nuance to the Force. And I think, what you're telling me is that what they have nuance in these characters and who's the villain and who's the good guy, which always makes better storytelling, right? Because we all have shades of villainy and
yeah.
hero in our own lives, right? And so I think that's insightful. So yeah, so as a person, so I guess you like it, right? Is that you watched it, you enjoy it? Is it up there the top anime ones that you watched, or what do you feel?
Yes, and
Wow,
it's funny. I got kind of emotional a couple times along the way.
what?
Yeah,
Okay,
where it's like it just got me so hyped where I was just like, "Oh god," you know?
wow, that's powerful, man. Yeah, so so yeah, so my take on it was yes, me and my son watched the first episode, so I mean, I think it goes through the first initial crew. I can't remember the guys' names right now, but the main sword fighter, the badass, right? I guess
Yeah.
you probably know his name. The
Zoro?
young girl,
Yes.
the Zoro, thank you. And the young girl, I can't remember her
Nami.
name either right now. Thank you. So Nami and her and, and Luffy, right? And
Yep.
then they're like the three core, right? And so I get that part. I was like, okay, this so they, I kind of in the back of my mind they introduced the character of Luffy and they didn't really kind of hint he had any special powers, but he was just overconfident for like no reason. And then when he got in that battle, I was like, oh, that's why he's just super overconfident. He just can't get, he can't get hurt. Or and so at least in, this format or whatever. But anyway, me and my son watched it. I like the main character. I mean, if this is a goofy type of character, the guy who's playing him is I thought he's pretty good. I mean, he brings a joy and exuberance. He can be goofy and everything,
Mhm.
but it's just that, oh, he's all right. Let me go hang with him. He seems like a cool kid. So yeah, so far, man, I mean, I think my son was like, he said, hey, can we watch the next, episode there? So well, let's take our time. A little bit more graphic, with some cutting in half and stuff like that here and there. Even in the beginning, so I was like, okay, how graphic is this going to get? But overall, I see there's a big story here that they're telling, right? And so I'm digging it. So to your point, after that, of course, I had to go down a little rabbit hole. I didn't want to go down too dark far into it. And yeah, man, it's a whole thing, man. It's just like this. There are YouTubers who've been doing this for years, talking about this, super hype. I mean, and they got categories of all the different fruits. They got categories of all the
Yeah.
different villains. They got categories of all different storylines. I guess when you have 1,000 episodes of anime, then you're gonna have a lot of content to display. So it still seems a little daunting, but me and my son gonna rock the live action, and then maybe we'll do a follow up review at the end, you and I, just to see
Yeah.
whenever you decide to get back on Netflix, see what we thought overall.
I'll probably do that next week some. Maybe this week, I don't know. But yeah, if you wanna know how deep it goes, I just put a link in there. So for everyone wondering, I just put a link in, sent it over to Theo. Have you see this?
I'm about to now.
Yeah.
So, I'm scared too. Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah, I think I've seen this before, yes.
Yeah,
It's
so
it's it's a lot.
what I said was just a huge collage of all the characters, and yeah, we're talking about thousands of episodes, so you're gonna have hundreds of characters involved, and it's funny, I can look through these and go like, "Oh, yeah, that's that guy from that guy from" the same way when you look at an old Simpsons poster and you see all the
Mhm.
different Simpsons characters. Yeah, it's like that. But yeah, scores are high on this, people are talking. Netflix hasn't shot it down, and, as I said before, they're spending more per episode on this than they did for The Last of Us. So, they've definitely put in the investment. It'd be a shame to see with this amount of investment and this amount of fanfare in the beginning at least that they would cut it. It's like something that goes for thousands of episodes and you're gonna only,
Yeah, I
you
know.
know, you're gonna shortchange it basically. That doesn't seem like a good strategy. So
Yeah.
how much is this?
Well,
I'm looking at the numbers here. Go on.
and then someone mentioned that maybe this is the only one that could work because it's so, like you mentioned, fantastical, right? This crazy stuff
Mhm.
happening all the time in there that you can make it more realistic, and it's not gonna the old time fans are not gonna be so upset about it because they're like, "Okay, you know what? This is still good," because, But something like Cowboy Bebop, it was already kinda almost realistic, so if you did one little thing off, well, that's not how it's supposed to look, you know? Whereas this one, it's
Mm,
like, they're doing all kinds of crazy things all the time. Sure.
yeah.
His rubber powers don't actually look right, but, yeah, what do we know? It's the anime is just
Well,
okay.
I think that people just expect One Piece to be goofy in
Yeah.
general. So it's like you see something goofy happen with the effects and everything. I I'm already thinking like, yeah, whatever, it's One Piece. I'll kind of let it go. I don't care. Dumb stuff will happen. Characters will end up missing, and you're just like, yeah, whatever, man. It's One Piece. I don't know what happened to that storyline, but who cares? We're over here.
There you go. So, maybe they have a lot more, latitude to how they display the story, and as long as the core characters, I'm assuming, right? The core who that character is intact, then,
Yeah.
they may have a shot. So, we'll see. We'll give it some more time, the live action version at least.
But yeah, definitely give it more time. And real quick, the budget for each of the live action adaptations is reported to be over 17 million per episode. So,
Yeah.
and The Last of Us clocked in at around 15, it says. Yeah,
This ain't cheap. Nope. Get them dum-dum powers on the screen, boy. Ain't cheap.
yeah. So they're locked in for 8 episodes. I'm not sure how far that takes them in the story, but we'll see how it all goes on. And I'm just excited that this is happening. And Marvel better watch the back.
Okay. Love it.
All right, that's good for that one. And we're gonna go on to story number 2. Speaking of writers and Marvel and actors and everyone else, the WGA AFTRA act did I spell that right? Yes, AFTRA AFTRA. I've never actually spelled it out, sorry. SAG-AFTRA is seeking authorization to strike against video game companies as well as standard Hollywood companies. Theo, what's going on here?
Mr. Benja, I mean, this is your old world, but it does seem like everybody's emboldened by these strikes. Obviously, the WGA struck first, then the SAG, the actors struck second, and they're still holding strong. We'll see how long, but it's starting to delay projects, and we'll talk about that later. But we talked about this before. Reality stars are looking to strike, and now you got the uh, video game industry, starting to get faced against that with, as you know, a lot of voice acting, a lot of actors who are, doing, what's it called? The rendering, I guess, whatever you call the little paintballs. That's how I say it. But they do, stop motion, capture and all that kind of stuff. And they're just like, wait a minute, hold up. Let's have some negotiations and discuss. And so look, I didn't know from reading this article I sent to you, and it's from AV Club. I didn't know they struck previously in 2016. So yeah, man, this is a big thing. Mr. Benja, someone who came from the industry, I mean, do you feel like this is warranted at this time? Are they just trying to take advantage of the leverage now and see something, take advantage of it and see what they can do?
I don't know what they're thinking because if they know that video game companies don't care that much. I mean, you're sitting here recording some voiceovers and they're like, "Oh my gosh, guys, there's a strike going on." It's like, "Really? Hey, have you seen Derek from accounting? He's got a really nice voice. He'll probably want to do it. Yeah, call him over." It's like, back in the past, let's say the 2000s, people started saying, "Hey, let's get these big name actors in. Let's get these big name involved. Let's get these big name, people to do a score." And it's like the return wasn't that much different than if your average Joe did it. They care more, the video game players and the industry seems to care more about being able to craft content their way than really catering something towards an actor or a certain writer. In fact, a lot of video game industry producers and developers will heavily influence the games themselves. I mean, like I'll just get in and start doing some stuff in the game, and like I never had the pushback of saying, hey, somebody official didn't write that, or did you write this? And it all just kind of gets jumbled up in the mix of who's developing what and who's contributing. So it's going to be difficult for them to really move the hand of the video game industry as much as they want to. So I'm sure this will affect some companies. Electronic Arts is probably more heavily invested. um, some of your bigger players, but I don't think they just don't care as much. So going outside the unions is not gonna scare these video game companies.
Okay. Yeah, like I said, man, it's interesting time. Why not? Take advantage, leverage. The best thing you have in business is leverage, right? How do you
Yeah.
get people to move in their best interest, right? And this is the maximal leverage that all these unions have now in the entertainment business because projects are shutting down, and if especially some studios, if they have multiple different things that they're doing, video games, TV, movies, reality show, you can shut down as many of those profit centers as possible
Yeah.
because of work stoppage. Now they're gonna be like, okay, you know, oh, F these guys, forget the actors. We got reality stars. It's only 20% of our business, but we can jump up to like 60% of our revenue next year. So, we don't got them no more. Shit. We're gonna get some more revenue from. So now, as a
Yeah.
business person, that's leverage. Now that I figure out, okay, I may have to negotiate with these guys. But you know what? Again, I just will say this. Scott Galloway made a great point. Yes, you could, put some parameters around AI and structures and guidance and all that. But really, probably what they need to do is really focus their energies on how to, we'll probably talk about it later, right? With, some of the art stuff we're seeing out there. How do you get, these AI companies to pay you for, your creations, right? And so there should be some more hard lines on how these AIs are learning, into their systems and pulling into their systems, not just scraping the internet for raw free entertainment. So if I was an actor or artist now, I would try to create some lawsuits against the AI companies, OpenAI and Facebook and everyone else is just scraping data right now to come up with their own algorithms. This is the
Yeah.
perfect time to kind of fight that because this is it's going to be
Yeah.
so you might as well just make money off of it.
Yeah, I mean, you could try, but I mean, yes, you should try, but the way they're trying can't be the obvious way because you're gonna end up with the Chuck Norris problem. When when the internet was first starting to do its meme thing, they were saying, "Hey, Chuck Norris," they had like a clip of Chuck Norris beating somebody up. "Hey, don't do like Chuck Norris did," and da da da, or you can't be as badass as Chuck Norris. And he started going after people like, "You can't use my name, you can't use my
Mhm.
likeness, you can't use my clip from a movie." And people were like, "Hey, hey, 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 calm down, Chuck. You're not gonna stop this, one. And two, this is a good thing on the internet. They're just taking clips and making you famous. Trust me, let it go." And he had to step back and be like, "Oh, okay, this is what's happening. This is how it's going on now." So we're entering one of those
Well,
whole.
but I would argue against that point though,
Okay, go ahead.
because yes, but but that would be as if it was AI, right, then they
Hmm.
would have that image of Chuck Norris, and then they can take that image and use it any way they want, any format, and basically recreate Chuck Norris to be in your own type of movie, in essence, right?
Yeah,
So now Chuck is not getting paid for, that clip because they can just recreate it in different formats, different persons, have them say different things because they have the data and enough
yeah,
information to kind of recreate that. Whereas, and that would severely undermine, before the internet, I agree, was more like a marketing place, awareness. Hey, more
yeah,
people know you, so they probably want to hire you. Now, as more people know you, so now the AIs learn what you do, and then they can do it cheaper than paying you directly.
yeah. And I hear you, but I'm saying this is an old story. We'll take it even back to the mixtape days with DJ Clue, where he was putting out mixtapes on the street. You get your artist famous on a mixtape, but you can't get them too famous and you can't get too much money coming your way. Otherwise, Universal Records is going to come after you and shut your whole process down. So just enough to keep the buzz going and keep the fans happy, but not enough where you end up in the territory of infringement. And what does
Mm,
that
okay.
mean in the AI world? I don't know, but I can tell you it's gone bad a lot of times.
Okay. We'll see.
Oh, by
It's
the
gonna be
way,
interesting to see how these people play this out.
yeah. And by the way, video gamers and video games, they aren't opposed to using artificial intelligence. It's kind of a thing. Just to,
It's what they're known for. Every
yeah, I mean, we talked about
NPC. NPC.
yeah, gang gang. Yeah, we talked about that with yeah, check our AI history and on the other podcast episodes, we talked about this. So, that's that. But now, we can go on to story number 3. Gonna shuffle it around a little bit and talk about the Marvel delays. Speaking of all the strikes with the actors and the writers, Marvel's delaying all kinds of stuff. We've been waiting on it, and while we're waiting, Disney's jacking up the price. But Echo, the Hawkeye spinoff, got delayed. X-Men 97, Agatha. We don't know what's happening with Ironheart, Daredevil, and all these. So, Theo, I don't know what's going on with Marvel anymore. I'm not sure I even care anymore. What's happening?
Yeah, I mean, look, we kinda got wind of this. There's 2 things going on. There's a quality control issue, right? Everyone saw Secret Invasion, and it got universally panned, so look, you don't need to relitigate that. But, the days of being excited by new Marvel movie TV shows has, subsided considerably. I think the next one we have is Loki that's coming up here, and then we have the Marvels movie that's coming out, but that's pretty much it because the slate of the ones that we were talking about. What If, a show I think you and I were kinda excited about, is getting pushed back to Christmas, which is fine. It's an animated show, but we thought it was pretty cool. But, Echo, I think this is one that people were still kinda questioning why we're gonna have that. So shoot off of, the not the Daredevil series, was it the what did she show up in? I forgot. Was it the Hawkeye? Thank you,
Hawkeye,
Hawkeye
yeah,
spinoff.
Hawkeye.
So she's actually but is she a villain of Daredevil too? Because I think in that she shows up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, that whole thing, that just sounds like a series of mistakes to me. It's like,
yeah,
how can we make something it was one of the most Disney-fied things I'd seen in a while. Well, hey, let's take a character that nobody really thinks is that cool, give him a Christmas show, and not really even make it about that character that had this underground following. And then, it's and then they took speaking of Daredevil, they took Kingpin, one of the most
yes.
hardcore characters, and this isn't a
Man,
spoiler,
love
by the
Hawkeye.
way, but it's just letting you know. They took one of the most hardcore characters and put marshmallows all around him, and
Yeah,
it's like, I don't
yeah.
know, that
And
not
they
that it was a
literally
bad
brought they
series.
did brought the same actor who was originally on the Netflix show, right? And
Yeah,
they to be like a punk. So yeah, I think we were all kind of disheartened. But anyway, let me go through
they
these
put
real
him in a
quick. So
Hawaiian shirt, bruh.
literally, they did. They did. Oh god. So yeah, Echo, no, the spinoff no one wanted is definitely getting moved back to next year. We'll see if that even sees the light of day. To be honest with you, X-Men, because we know Disney's known for, and we talked about this basically, uh, not having anything show up ever again, right, on their streaming service, so they can leverage it for something else later. So we'll see what happens with that one. Echo, X-Men '97, I think that was something we're excited about. That's again moved to 2024, so that was the first kind of X-Men kind of show that's going to reenact the same kind of animation from the old X-Men TV show. So, but that's getting pushed back to 2024. Agatha, I think everybody was kind of excited about that one. Agatha Darko Diaries, that's being moved to 2024. But that was one of those, Mr. Benja, that people were kind of excited about. They thought that character popped on WandaVision. So,
Yeah,
but we'll see. And
the
then
the character
finally, go ahead.
the character didn't pop. That song just got
No.
that stupid ass song.
She actually the actress, Kathleen Hahn, she's funny, man. She's good in everything I've seen her in. So, but come on, man, the reveal was hot too. Come on, man. I mean,
You know,
WandaVision, be honest with you, was in retrospect, that was a pretty good show, man. What they did with it, and that it just, kind of went downhill from there. I mean, we had high expectations for it. I don't think it met them, but it did at least say, okay, they're trying to do something different. Because remember, they went to the different decades of television. I thought that was kind of
it took a comeback moment where it was like, "Wait, what is this?" It was
yes.
high thoughts, and then was like, "What is this?" And it dipped, and then after a while, I was like, "You know what? They tried something, and it came back up." So,
Well, yeah, yeah.
kudos.
So they tried.
But, yeah,
And that character was I mean, the review was hilarious, man. She was everything and she killed Sparky too.
it was hilarious to some.
That thing was hot, boy, man. That guy made that remix, boy. We might have to put that on the theme song somewhere.
Hey, the only song I wanna hear coming out of Disney is the old X-Men song for X-Men '97.
Oh,
They
yeah.
better remix that and do it right and not
Ooh,
come with some new age
that was
trap
hard.
version of some they better not come with some BS, that's all I'm saying.
That was a hard version. You're right about that.
And then we hear that gong leading up to the gong. Dum 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 dum.
And they running
Oh,
on the X.
hey, man.
Nothing like classic animation where everybody's just running, on the X or running, running in place, like the Super
Yeah.
Friends one where they're all marching out.
Yeah, yeah, they
Boy,
got
they get you hyped, boy. They play those horns and everybody just marching and running. Boy, I just spoiler alert.
you just gave me an idea. You just gave
I
me an
know,
idea.
man. Write it down, man. Write it down, man. You get hyped, boy, when you see that stuff coming. Spoiler alert, if you didn't see Transformers: Rise of the Beast, but it doesn't matter. No one really did. I just saw it with my kids over the break. Yeah, man, they're trying to do kind of, end reveal at the end credit, mid-credit scene or whatever. They're revealing that the character is aligned to G.I. Joe. So they're gonna try to do a Transformers G.I. Joe mix. So my kids were like, "What's G.I. Joe?" "Ah, YouTube." And so we went to YouTube and went to the G.I. Joe, Real American Hero. Now that slapped too,
Yeah.
man.
But there was some running in there too.
Oh, yeah, they are. Then I don't know if you remember the movie, the animated movie. Remember that one?
Yeah, Sergeant Slaughter.
Cobra, Cobra. They would slap you down. "Who's gonna serve the day?" And they coming in, Cobra's beating up everybody, taking purses, and here comes Joe, right? G.I. Joe.
Yes.
Hypeness, hypeness. Anyway, so I digress, man. But yeah, I think overall, man, it just sucks. Disney is just, or yeah, it started out promising the TV angle, but I don't know, man. The strike is also delaying a lot of promising properties um, uh, like Daredevil, right? That we were kind of excited about, and Wonder Man. So, yeah, man, I don't know, man. I don't really have too much to say about this beyond just it does suck right now to be a Marvel person, or just a superhero fan in general. So, hopefully, this pause can give Marvel time to correct and get some quality back in.
We shall see. We shall see. Always hoping for the best with these because if Marvel goes down, then I may just become that cranky old man sitting in the corner.
I remember when superheroes ran to free.
Speaking of cranky old men sitting in the corners talking noise, we have story number 4. I heard that sports influencers is your daddy. Is daddy. Is your daddy. How does that go? But I was thinking about the sports influencers and the regular influencers, and I was thinking, wow, these sports influencers have been doing this influence thing for a while where you just have random characters and they get online, they get on TV, they're at the stadiums talking noise. And it's like, you know what? They kind of wrote the playbook, I think, for a lot of these influencers and how they get around and do their thing. And the story came out because of Deion Sanders. He showed up again and it got me thinking about it. And I don't know, I sent you the article, and but you probably already knew about it. So tell them what's going on, Theo.
Oh, well, about Dion in general, specifically? So, well, Dion, look, prime time. Look, if you didn't grow up in the '90s, Dion was everywhere. Especially you grew up in Tallahassee, Mr. Bench. I'm sure you knew of
Mm,
him very well because attended Florida State University as the top cornerback, and he was one of the first, well, him, Bo Jackson, other folks. He did two sports, right? Pro. He was a football player and a baseball player. So yeah, primetime Dion must be the money, just all that kind of stuff,
yeah.
right? So now, he kind of faded away, got older, but then he still had like reality show, he was on ESPN for a little bit. Then he kind of went off and did this something interesting. He went to become the head coach of HBCU, Jackson State. And he was like, I'm going to turn this program around and make it popular. But he did something very interesting. He knew they had no money to do anything. So he used his own money to film everything. He brought his own son. He was able to recruit, because they figured the recruits who would come there say, hey, you know how to be a superstar, make me a superstar, right? It don't matter where you play at. So he went to Rinky Dink Jackson State University and made it poppin'. He had Snoop there. He had celebrities showing up. they were balling, and he had all this video. He had, like, movies. Matter of fact, they had a documentary that they sold to Netflix during this time. Then in the midst of all that, he's only there a couple years, he left. He's "I'm out." And he just because Jackson State wasn't getting the money, nothing was happening, and he went to Colorado State. And there, they just, as we're filming this, very big controversial, but they were like 2-15 at the time as a football program. He said, well, revise them. And he brought his son, who's a top notch, quarterback, but he's able to get all these other recruits because he's Deion Sanders. So now he's trying to do the same playbook he did at Jackson State, there at this Colorado. And I'm assuming this is just a stepping stone to it. I think his ultimate goal is probably go back to be a head coach at Florida State, which is a top, 15 school in the football
Yeah,
world.
yeah.
So anyway, to your point, he's playing that playbook, man, as an influencer as a player, from a commentator to now a coach, and it's just changing the game.
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating. I'm watching this this character move from area to area, and he's just taking that bombastic influence, and it got me thinking of figures like Big Boy from Outkast jumping on ESPN all of a sudden, and Lil Wayne jumping on. And it's like, of course, you have musicians taking their musical ability, and then they just pop up somewhere and they're doing stuff. And it's like this whole thing about being able to influence somebody just because of who you are and your personality and where you're coming from. It's now we're starting to see YouTubers taking their YouTube influence, like Mr. Beast, we always talk about, them go somewhere and, flex their influential muscles like, hey, I'm going to make some candy bars and whatnot. And it's like, okay, we already had, what was that guy's name? I forgot his name, but played for the Bengals, but he had like a sports drink, I think, or like a
Wow,
protein bar or something. I forgot.
probably.
But yeah, this playbook has been done before, and I'm just now kind of connecting to it and realizing that, oh, okay, you can just kind of start picking up these YouTubers, these characters, and these influencers, and start plopping them in other places, and bring all that influence along with them. And
Man, I
go ahead.
think you nailed it, man. I mean, I think this is so you got the sports ones, right? We talk LeBron James, what, 273,000,000, 236,000,000 across all socials, Steph Curry, 53,000,000 on IG. But what's interesting to me is these younger players, man, who in college are getting money, get paid for what they call meal deals, name, image, and likeness. So, they're in sports, not like, some of them are football and basketball, which is top notch college programs and get a high influence. But you got gymnasts. Have you heard of this one, Olivia Dune? Have you heard of her?
I've heard the name, I think.
7.6 million TikTokers. She's getting $500,000 as a gymnast, amateur gymnast, 'cause, she can license her name, image, and likeness and get paid for that, and she has so much influence, with that, and there's another guy, he's a pole vaulter, I can't remember his name now, but he's got the same similar deal, and this is recently came down from Supreme Court. There's a big controversy around cosplayers not getting paid. I think it was Ed O'Bannon, but
Mhm.
yeah, he was a basketball player for UCLA. They used his image for the, NCAA basketball game, EA Sports, and he went to the Supreme Court to fight that, and because they won, they changed the whole system where now these cosplayers can get compensated in some form or fashion. So yeah, man, the only other thing I just wanna bring up here is, like, you also seeing the old school was really sports shock radio. I don't know if you remember that back in the day, right? These guys would get on the radio and just be yelling and screaming about your favorite team, and that was the ultimate influencer. The Lakers suck because Tragic Magic, he can't make a shot. That's what I listened
I
to when I was
I
growing up.
remember that.
And
That stuff was funny.
and think about that. They had influence, they had charm, and then what you saw was this mix between the radio guys and then the writers. They would go back and forth, and so now you have all these writers who are on ESPN. I mean, you probably heard of Stephen A. Smith, right? He's pretty famous out there. Skip Bayless. They're influencers now, right? And because they have a platform and they have an opinion, they have a hot take, and so it's like, you're right. They're kind of like playing their playbook over and over again that started way back when, from writing to radio, now TV, and now social media. So, yeah, and these are regular guys. These ain't like sports guys, who, let's be honest, they have talent. They're doing something phenomenal. These are just guys just running their mouth, man, and their thoughts, and now they're influencing. So, interesting to see what's happening in the world and how we can take that. apply to a common, but you also see, and I'll let this go. You see this loop. And now you've seen social media start getting to sports, with what's his name, get into fighting, Logan
Logan
Paul.
Paul.
Yeah. So there you go.
Yep.
Life is a
Uh,
circle.
yeah. And I don't drink Prime because I think it tastes funny.
Sure.
Anti plug there. I know a lot of people drink it, so go try it out for yourself. All right. I'm gonna round this out with story number 5. So this is a discussion piece, but will AI take your job or not? Because this has been a question that people have been wondering about, and I think it's rooted in two different areas. One where people seem to be very fearful about AI, like, oh my God, rise of the robots, they're finally taking over, it's finally here. I'm so scared. What am I gonna do? I don't even want to get on my computer because AI is out there. I'm not gonna do anything. They're gonna take our jobs and everything. I don't like it. And then on the other side, you have the dismissive kind where it's like, computers are gonna be computers. We always have technology, whatever. No one's job's gonna get taken. It'll be just fine. It's just another program, just another Y2K. Don't worry about it. Keep going about your business. So, random discussion, and this actually, we've been talking about AI for a while, Theo, but I was randomly going around the internet, and I don't know if you know about the site spy.com, but I don't even know what to call them. They're kind of like a Wired with more Wired slash GQ kind of thing. I don't know what to call them. But anyway, they're this website that puts out these articles. And I was scrolling through and I noticed one of their images on their, they have the feature image that you always see on every article on the web, like a magazine article. There's this big featured image. It's usually a photo. And I looked at this one photo and I was like, huh, that photo has pretty interesting lighting. And so I clicked on the article and looked at it closely and I saw the photo credits underneath. Because, it's usually said photo by whatever,
Mhm.
illustration by whoever. This one says photo credit, image generated by Tyler Schober using Midjourney. And
What?
I was like, oh, we're already there. So I jumped back to the Spy homepage and I started looking through all their articles. And I started looking for any, I don't want to call them suspect, but any suspect images for their not profile pictures, but their feature images. And yeah, every time, every time one looks kind of like a little too nice, it's like photo credit, image generated by blank using blank. It's not an uncommon thing. And it's not just this website, other websites too, but this is the one where I've seen it most commonly shown. What do you think about that?
Good. People getting credit, that's a start.
You mean Midjourney's getting credit?
Well, well, who's ever using Midjourney, right? That's my assumption, right? It's the guy who created using Midjourney. Is that correct?
Yes, the guy who typed in, "I want to see a man sitting at a desk." I mean, that's not.
Laid out.
I mean, if you think about it, the, some photos aren't that hard. Photos aren't that hard to do once you get your basic understanding of equipment and lighting. You just kind of roll in, sit the guy down. Unless you're doing a really nice photo like Vogue or something like that, a lot of these photos are just kind of like, "Hey, dude, just sit down. We're gonna pop these lights up. Click. All right, get the hell out. That'll be $1,500."
Well, I think it's a start, right? Now, at least they can kind of start tracking it back to a source, right? And then if that's the
Hmm.
beginning, then they can start tracking it back to how did the source create this image, right? What sources are feeding into it, right? Because this piece of the image is something that only this specific artist creates, right? And so, where'd you get that from? So I think that's a start potentially. Like I said, it's still a black box for me, but yeah, could this stuff take people's jobs? I think, it's starting to get somewhat like that because, I see folks are trying to, get better prompt engineering, figure out how they can leverage it to be automated, but I still think we have a ways to go, man. We're trying to use it more. I mean, a lot of my VAs use it, virtual assistants use it to kind of create, words and images and stuff like that a little bit faster. And I use it sometimes to help generate copy, word copy for marketing. But beyond that, Mr. Benja, unless there's something that's truly can be automated, it takes time to learn. You know, I think we're still in the early stages of this, but yes, and I think what we're going to see is people migrate. I think it's moving fast, but it's not moving as fast as I thought it would be.
Right, right.
But I think people still have chance to kind of up their skills, just like anything. I mean, if a new grad, I mean, look at Canva, right? Canva didn't exist a couple years ago, right? And so now it's like the thing everybody uses, to kind of create something easily. And before you were like, I need a graphic artist. Man, Canva makes it so easy. I'm like using it for everything now. And I'm not even a graphic artist. I'm like, get those stuff together real quick. So I think Canva, is a corollary to this. AI
Yeah.
is going to be similar. You have to learn that tool to do your next level of job.
I was kind of felt good when, your VA was trying to figure out how to recreate some of the images I did in Canva. And I was like, ha ha ha. Not yet, buddy. Every
Not yet, son. Oh, Padawan, you have a long way to go.
and Canva has AI tools in it, right?
Mhm.
You can like copy some things and I mean highlight some areas and ask it to make a change, right? With certain tools. I don't know exactly how Canva works in that sense, but I've seen it on YouTube.
Absolutely. So, I mean, so will it take jobs? Absolutely. But it will also, I mean, this is the argument always, right? It will also change, some people's job sets and stuff like that, which I think is a good thing, more
So
tools make you more productive.
so you're saying a shift. I mean, it's just like jobs and activities shifting over from one place to another.
I mean, it's always been the case, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
we've seen that time again. So, but this is interesting. We thought AI is going to affect the laborers, right? Talking on Labor Day. The ones who, they got
Right.
robots, picking up groceries and taking them to your car, walking back. No, it's taking the knowledge workers like,
Oh,
folks
like
like
yeah.
us. So in theory, you say, okay, if I could just get them to do that, then I can do some other aspect of the chain, right? Of the work chain. So, hopefully that, the knowledge workers can adapt a lot faster than a worker can, right?
Yeah.
Because they're working at a higher level. And because mental, don't let me get into the woo woo stuff, but I think the mental capacity is unlimited, right? Because there's always different ways you can, use the tool, and it's just limited by your creativity. So, yeah, I think it'll be fine. I think people will keep their jobs. They just got to be smart about it.
Well, I like the statement that's been going around where people say, uh, your job is not going to be taken by AI, but somebody using AI will probably take your job. And
That's gonna be you, Mr. Benja.
I can guarantee yes, yes. No, I can guarantee that it's so when I worked in video gaming, one thing we always did was outsource. A lot of our, you have a group of 15 artists and you're paying them a good chunk of money because they all came from art school. They've been doing crazy, awesome visual effects for all these years. And you have them doing like really hard work. And then someone's like, "Hey, listen, I need at least 25 varieties of gray rocks, 32 varieties of brown rocks, and 68 different types of trees." You know? And this is like the art director's kind of like calling out, "I need all these trees, rocks," and all the artists are like, "Yeah, look, my guy, we can ship that off to China. We can ship that off to Pakistan, whatever." So that's what they would do, and that's what you ended up with. But now you just AI that, so that's what's happening.
Nah, real quick. I mean, look, virtual assistants, people thought people gonna lose their jobs. People using VAs all the time. Low cost labor's always been there. So, but people are leveraging that to do more of other things. AI is the same. So automation is gonna do the same. So I do feel like we can adapt and we will have to adapt. So, but you hit the nail on the
That's
head
the
on
key.
that,
We
Mr.
have
Bishop.
to adapt.
We have to because it's here. The Pandora box is open. So
Find something to do, sucker. Find something.
well, look, hey everyone, this has been great session. We're going to end this one a little early today, but look, please, hope you like this show. Like, subscribe, and comment at Show versus Business on Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. Listen to us at Spotify, iTunes, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Go check us out on our website, Show versus Business. Mr. Benja, until next time.
Peace.